Welcome to Coastal Conversations, where we invite you to journey with us beyond the time constraints of Sunday morning. Whether you're a regular attender, a curious seeker, or someone just checking us out, we hope you find this podcast of value. So grab your headphones and let's get this conversation started. Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Coastal Conversations. We have a special episode for you today. Chuck Bartle is here with me, and Chuck and Margie lead our Grief Share group here at Coastal Church. If you haven't heard about that, it's one of the small groups that we offer here at Coastal that helps you walk through seasons of grief when you lose a friend, a loved one, even a child, like we're going to talk about today. So today's episode is a little bit on the heavy side. If you have littles that like to listen with you every week, this might be one you want to listen to first and process, and then see if it's okay for them to listen to if they're ready for it. So I want to get on into the conversation because I think it's going to be very encouraging to you in the end. And I want you to hear this family story of how they have taken a tragic experience and used it for the glory of God. So help me welcome today to Coastal Conversation, Chuck Bartle. Hey, Chuck, Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I know that this is not always an easy thing for you to talk to, but you really have used what the enemy meant for harm and turned it for good to the glory of God. We're going to talk today about you losing your daughter.
Yes.
How old was she when she passed away?
She was 16.
She was 16 when she passed away.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about her, about Lily is her name. Yep. Tell us a little bit about Lily. What was she like? And what do you remember most about Lily?
Well, she was our middle child.
Okay.
So for any middle children out there, my wife was a middle child, Margie was a middle child, so she was a middle child.
Yeah.
And she was probably the funniest out of ours. She was also the most laid back. She one time sat and watched all of Gone with the Wind with me some Saturday afternoon. Wow. It was she sat and watched all of it. My other two never in a million years could they have sat still that long. She was probably the most sensitive out of the three. And she was also, and as you know, her story unfolds, was the most naive, which was sweet in some things, and in other things it put her in a position where she just made some really bad choices, just didn't see what was, how bad certain situations were, just how bad things could be. And this would ultimately led to her, passing away.
Yeah. Walk us through those days in July of 2015 when Lily passed away. What happened?
Well, she was kind of leading up to that. So it was summer, they were on break. She had a friend that they had been friends since fourth grade, and her and this girl, and they were joined at the hip. And she had been making, we began noticing they were just together, just making just dumb choices.
Yeah.
She was actually even grounded during this time because her and this girl tried to sneak out of this girl's house, and her parents caught her. And even going back to May of this summer, my job is I drive a truck for a living for Ace Hardware. So I'm home every night, but I used to be gone some nights of the week. So about midnight one night, Margie gets a knock on the door, and it's our daughter Lillian and two Daphne cops.
Wow.
And she had snuck out of the house because she had been messaging some guys who said they wanted to take her to IHOP. And thank God for some neighbor who just thought it looked suspicious that this girl's walking down the streets of Lake Forest in the middle of the night. And so they called Daphne police. And so she was just going through, I think, something. She just had broken up with a little boyfriend she'd had. I think was just going through some things. Even that day that she died, or the day before, which was the 7th, she had, her and Margie had gone for a walk downtown Daphne, and said she was just sad. So that night, Margie finally just kind of feeling bad for her. She had said she wanted to go to spend the night with another friend. Both these girls just happen to have the same name. And she's like, okay, fine. Since she's going through a tough time, we'll let you go. Well, then the next morning, Margie gets, she's at work here in Daphne, and all of a sudden has Pastor Joe Lee and his wife Angela and Debbie Camp and Bruce Camp, and then a good friend of ours, JD and Christy Weir, of course, they come here to basically come and tell her that Lily had, through the night, had died. And so the story as it unfolds, of course, Margie's trying to call one friend and come to find out, no, she was never at our house. So she had gone off with this other girl who we'd been telling her, you probably need to spend a little less time. She's making some bad choices. She had an older sister that had already been in and out of rehab. And they had gone to some young man's house up in Spanish Fort who had methadone tablets that we think he had gotten when his father had been on home care some years earlier and had passed away. And he would crush up that methadone in Sunny Delight and then feed it to kids and just tell them, well, you'll get like a body high. And so both girls get violently ill. They both more or less pass out. And then Lily never woke up. And then the other girl woke up and, of course, had to go to the emergency room, get her stomach pumped. So that's how it's kind of all unfolding, kind of what we found out. And then from JD, who had once been a paramedic, he had explained to us that crushing up that methadone, that's something that really hard drug dealers do.
Wow.
Or drug takers, because it goes into your system immediately. And so...
and she would have never known that. She just trusted the person that told her what to do.
So that kind of, as I was talking about her being naive, we know it just led into her having no idea what it was she was taking. And so it just went straight to her system, and she never woke up from it. Wow. So...
what were some of the hardest moments after those first few hours of learning about everything? I'm sure there was a lot of chaos involved and things around that. But what were some of the hardest moments and after those initial hours and days after Lily's passing?
Well, we were real fortunate, real blessed. We had a big group of friends. And although we had kind of gotten, I don't want to say real distant, but everybody just got busy doing their own things. Yeah. And plus friends from the church who all really came back around us to kind of support us. And we could still remember one of the tougher things where they were doing a memorial service, I think, at the school. And I said, I don't think we can go. And so everybody went, and then suddenly it was just Margie and I at the house. And like our other two, my younger son and our daughter both went. And it was just really hard. And fortunately, some other friends just randomly just came by the house just to check on us. And so just having them there. But trying to get back into the norm, and it was both kind of for me therapeutic, trying to get some things back to normal daily routines. But it was just, it was just always there. I mean, of course, it was very much a bit of a whirlwind. It was things that you never haven't imagined yourself having to do. You've got to go to the funeral home. You have to make arrangements. Yeah. You're having to, and I can even remember they're walking around the funeral home and looking at caskets, and there was an Alabama casket, there was an Auburn casket, there was an LSU casket, and and they're kind of laughing at this. And the funeral director at times, she was great. She's like, "Oh yeah, we go through a lot of these." And in my mind, I'm like, I want no part of this. I don't want to be doing this. I walk by and I'm like, that one, and which turned out to be the one we used. But it was trying to making those sort of decisions, and then.
It's almost like getting through them as fast as you can, ripping that Band-Aid off.
Yeah, exactly. And we were also in the process of, it's funny because through Grief Share, one of the things they tell you is don't make any big decisions. Well, we were in the middle of a big decision of moving out of a rental house, fixing to sign on a new house. So then it's instantly like, okay, what do we do here? So we thought, well, we're just going to go clean slate. We had this big group of people who were willing to help us move. So we decided to go ahead and go through it, which was, I don't know if you, that's kind of how I found out. Our landlord at the time had arranged to have somebody come by and see the house that day. And so I'm coming back from Tallahassee, Florida, where I'd go make a few deliveries for Ace. And so Margie, once she found out and kind of went through that initial shock, I think her mind instantly went into, okay, we got to do this, we got to do this. And she said, well, somebody needs to call Mr. Bob and tell him, don't send anybody to the house. And don't tell me. So there was a big discussion about whether or not they should tell me as I'm driving back from Tallahassee. And so I get this really random text. And I'm like, what's he talking about? Loss of your daughter. And then right after that is when Margie calls me. Because I think what she was afraid is it was going so much blowing up on Facebook and everything else that somebody was going to call me and tell me. And so then she told me, and I'm still got a 3-hour drive. And then there was talk of, do they try to send another driver to come meet me? And I said, no, just let me drive, let me process this. And so it was, so that's how I found out.
Wow.
And then I got back, and that's when my brother had brought my son and, up there and kind of drove my truck back, and then my pickup truck back. And then having to get out of the back to the house. And of course, there's cars, tons of people. And I just remember thinking, I don't think I'm ready to deal with this. And so I kind of immediately, fortunately, this rental house, we walked right in and could walk right into our bedroom. So I just kind of immediately went in there so I could take a shower for one, and then have to kind of go out and, be and talk with everybody. And, but it was difficult, but the going through all that, 'cause it's just so surreal. It's just something you think you're never going to have to do, at least not for a child. I mean, when our parents get older, we sometimes think, well, those are things that we're going to have to encounter, but not for a child. So
during this season, was there a particular scripture or truth about God that carried you through when nothing made sense about this? But, and this goes hand in hand with what Pastor Chad talked about today.
It was very spot on.
It was so good about how, and if you haven't had a chance to listen, I encourage you go back to Sunday's message and listen to about Pastor Chad helped us process when things in life don't make sense. What do we do? And he talked about how we need to recognize, if we know who the who is, we can walk through all the other things, holding close to Jesus. Was there a particular truth or scripture that helped you?
At the time, not so much that. More, and both Mark and I have always been, music has always been something that's been very, very healing.
Okay.
And so at the time, the Hillsong United song, Spirit Lead Me, was just that song. And that's the reason why I painted this. Lily painted this.
Okay.
And yes, Spirit's misspelled. That was Lily.
Okay.
So we used to call her Napoleon. If you ever saw the movie Napoleon Dynamite, that was Lily. And even our oldest daughter's like, well, I need to fix it. And we're like, no, don't fix it. That's it. And so, this from Marg and I, this song, the Plum song, I Need You Now, was really pop. Both of those songs just really, and I think
the title of that song is Oceans, and
that's it, Oceans. Yeah.
Spirit lead me where my trust is without borders.
And so that song ministered so much to us. And, I don't remember any specific scripture. And of course I'm praying the natural prayers of like, God, why is this happening? And I can even remember feeling like I got an answer, and I didn't like the answer I got at the time, which was, God. And I felt like he was telling me, it's like, relationships are going to be restored. People are going to be healed. People are going to be brought to me. And I'm like, that's great, God, but why my kid? And I wouldn't wish that to anybody else. But now of course, I have a better understanding. I don't feel like that now, but at the time, that was instantly like, well, that's great, because we did all the right things. We went to church. We prayed over our kids. We kept them, in church. We felt like we did all those right things. And so I'm like, why my kid?
Yeah.
But as far as a specific scripture, but then it's, it's interesting because Pastor Chad talked about getting into Job. So I immediately started going into Job because I wanted some answers.
Yeah.
Because, we kind of read through Job, and like he lost all his kids. I'm like, well, each one of these individual kids was his child, and he loses them all. And I'm like, and it seems very unfair.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much looking forward to that, because I want to hear, I want to get into that. And there's times even then it's like it still all seems very unfair. But there was a book I'd read some years ago called The Sovereignty of God by Arthur Pink. And I don't remember everything, but I just remember getting in that God is sovereign. We're not always going to understand these things. We're not always, but God is always, his promises, he's always going to be there for us, that he sent his son, who's also just as us experienced, heartaches, but experienced loss, experienced the death of his own friend Lazarus.
Yeah.
Even knowing that, and I know that's always been debated. Was he upset because nobody believed in him, or was he upset because of his friend Lazarus? And I believe that he was upset at just, this was his friend Lazarus, and hearing all of this
and
emotion, and he died. And so, that's why I'm looking forward to hearing his.
I think that's going to be good. And today's sermon was so comforting and helped, because we do, in this broken world, we walk through seasons and tragedy where we don't understand.
And of course, this past week.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, it's, I have no words. It's like,
we won't understand.
So there was no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
The past couple of weeks.
The Bible talks about how he's close to the brokenhearted. Did you guys sense a special closeness to Jesus during that season?
We did, yeah. Like, so that's just, I can remember her and I sitting upstairs, because we're having to now pack all of our stuff and all of her stuff, which fortunately our older daughter who got very organizational as she got older, which was good because she was young. And Lily was never,
Right.
not to get off, on a side note, but Lily would be the type like, I can't find my shoes. I'm like, Lily, if I come up there and find your shoes,
we're gonna have an issue.
There's going to be a problem. And
we've got one of those.
Lo and behold, I would always find those shoes. But I even one time got so mad, I grabbed all their stuff and just started taking it and started it in the garage. And I remember there was, as I said, it was like a biblical scene. There was gnashing, there was wailing, there was wrenching of mantles.
You find it in here.
You're like, Dad, no. But so that was Lily. But we just, we listened to this song and just cried and cried and cried. And it was a moment when nobody was there. But yet, just crying through all that was just getting through that. We just felt God pulling us closer and closer and closer. And
it's so good.
Some things we just had decided then is that, we're always going to pray together. We're always going to, we'd always prayed in church, but this is going to be intentional that we're going to pray together. And we're not going to let this, as Margie said, she's like, I don't want to be defined by this. I don't want to be sad for the rest of my life. I want to give glory to God. And as we were talking, it's kind of as time's gone on, I think we look at it in such a wrong perspective as now Margie says, she's the one child I don't have to worry about anymore.
Yeah, that is true.
So that's
a great perspective. Yeah,
she's like, that's the prize. She's won. She's gotten the place that's been prepared for her. Whereas the rest of us, we still, we're saddened. We go through this, but she's at home. And so that's now been our perspective, is just knowing that that's, God had done his work, she had fulfilled her purpose.
Yeah.
And
like Pastor Chad talked about even 2 weeks ago, full of years, sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So before losing your daughter, you lost a sister early when you were young.
Yep.
How did that experience of losing a sister at a young age shape how you processed Lily's loss?
Well, at the time of that, I was young.
Okay.
I still have a younger sister, and they were twins. They were identical twins.
Okay.
And so we knew she'd gotten diagnosed with leukemia when she was about 2. So I still have memories of going to the hospital, seeing her. She'd lost her hair from the chemotherapy, having to take her around an IV thing. So we knew she was sick, and I could just remember, I can just remember my parents coming home saying, well, Lisa's going to go live with Jesus. And at the time we're like, well, that's great.
Where's that?
Yeah, exactly. And so then it really didn't hit me till years later when I was about 11 or 12. And it really started hitting me hard. And I don't remember exactly how I kind of processed it all. I guess just even in those age, even though we went to church, I don't know if I really could know how to process it then. But coming to, eventually, I guess I don't want to say get over it, but I guess just learned how to kind of internally, deal with it.
Yeah.
And then so coming with Lily, it just, I guess I knew that things are going to get better, that there's, this is not going to be forever. Yeah. This grief.
You said when you told me your testimony, you were sitting in church one day and you and Margie heard about Grief Share, a program called Grief Share. And it was almost like it almost was an instant thing. Tell us a little bit about that and how you knew that's exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah. So I guess it had been about 5 years. And I think there was a notice that, I think that somebody had been leading before. And I guess she'd just gotten a little elderly. And I wish I could say there was some, angels singing and lights beaming in, but it was nothing like that. It's just like a grief share. And I'm like, I just, without even discussing it, I'm like, well, I think we're supposed to do this. And she's like, yeah, I thought the same thing. I think we're supposed to do this. And so then we got the material and started reading through it. And, we thought, well, we'll see what happens. 20 people may show up. Nobody may show up. We don't know. And so then what's interesting is each time we go through it, I mean, we're, and we tell everybody the first day, like, look, we go through this each time with you. So we're not the teachers of this because, it's not really to teach you how. It's not really, and I was a little concerned about that because there's a lot of really, as I say, some big hitters. I mean, Bill Bright, Zig Ziglar, H. Norman Wright, Hank Hanegraaff. There's a lot of big names in this. And I was a little worried it was going to get kind of academic and be kind of like, okay, very like a therapist of, okay, here's how you're going to go through this. And it's not. It's just these people all went through a loss. And here's their story, and here's how they got exactly.
So is Grief Share more like a care group where you kind of like work through it together?
Yeah.
And it gives you steps?
Each week's got a video series. It's about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And there's a workbook. And we kind of discuss. We go through and discuss what each topic was for that week. And we talk as long or as short as anybody. We tell everybody, share whatever you want. Don't feel like you have to hold anything back. And we've even told people that, look, just, be open with God. If you're angry, tell God. If you want to scream, if you want to cry, if you want to cuss, whatever, it's whatever you feel like. God knows. It's like, here's the place you can do that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
What does leading Grief Share look like for you now, and what impact have you seen it work in other people?
We've seen some great stories. We've seen this. One of the things that they talk about is people who get stuck in grief. And they even reference the story of how Abraham's father, Harahan, had been told to go into the promised land. And I may be getting the story because I know I've read it, but his older brother had died prior there, and he never went anywhere from there. And then the promise came to Abraham to go into the land that I will direct you. And so they kind of use that as getting stuck in grief.
Wow.
So I know the first time we talked about it, there was a woman who had an older daughter in her 20s that had died from a horrible car accident, or about the same time our daughter did, but she could never get past it. She was still going daily to the gravesite. Just was never able to just kind of move on with her life. And so she had been, completely, I don't want to say healed, but she had been able to get past that, been able to get some other things. So we've seen those kind of things. We've seen a woman who, although her husband had died from COVID, going through this, she had a brother when she was younger that had been murdered for his bicycle.
Wow.
And that she was still carrying some of that. Yeah. And that was back in the 70s. And so we've had, she was just, and all of that was kind of something she thought she'd really kind of moved on and gotten over. That as we're going through this because of her husband, which was more recent, but, that she was still having to deal with some things from that. So it's been amazing to see the work that's done and all the people that's,
it's a group no one wants to be a part of.
Well, exactly. Because, and every time it's the new life, it's always like, it's fun. I'm like, well, ours is kind of hard to stand up and, it's the group you wish you didn't have to
be a part
of. But we're there for, as long as there's been a need, we're always going to be there for it.
Yeah, you guys offer it every semester. You're steady and it's there.
Yeah.
And it's such a helpful tool for people to use. And I like that you've mentioned people have processed even grief years later, because we don't know how much sometimes we may bottle up losing somebody and suppress and suppress and suppress, and it comes out in other areas of our life.
Exactly.
And we get in a helpful group like this that helps us process in a spiritual, godly way, because you can process, but then you can process in a dangerous way, or you can process in a godly way, or with people that help you turn to God and help him comfort you and walk you through. And I think that's what you guys have, seen through Grief Share.
And we've had some people that have gone through Celebrate Recovery because of, but basically they were healing. They were trying to, I shouldn't say healing, but they were using drugs and substances because of grief of loss.
Yeah, they were processing the wrong way.
They were processing it the wrong way, in a very deadly way.
Yes.
And so that's been amazing to see. We've had a few individuals that have come, out of that lifestyle because of just grief from losing children and losing, and hearing their stories and hearing kind of everything from guilt to, and then seeing the work that God's done in their lives.
That's so good. For someone listening right now who is fresh in grief, what would you say to them?
Well, the one thing, and I guess by fresh is, always keep praying, keep praying, even when you don't understand, even when you don't know, just pray. And not to feel like it's got to be some, great
fancy,
liturgical, I mispronounced it, but prayer, but just keep praying. And then the other thing is, for Mark and I, it's find the things that gave you joy and gave you happiness even before that. One of the things they talk about in Grief Share is just doing the next thing, which sounds really simple, but even if it's the next thing is getting up and doing your laundry, getting up and vacuuming, getting up and going for a walk, just getting up and do anything. Find those things. If it's watching comedies, watching funny movies, do those things. If it's music, it's whatever those things. Find those things that will bring you joy and happiness before and do those. Don't get, I keep knocking the microphone.
You're totally fine.
Don't get bottle dumped. Don't lock yourself out. Yeah. And, and we know depression can sit in. Margie, and she knows I'm going to share this. She's had battled depression off and on since when she was young. And, some people we know may need to go see somebody that's more of a therapist, more of a and to kind of know, if they're getting to that point, that may be the next step they need to take. So
That's really good. I like that you said just do the next thing. And the next thing for some people may be taking a step and signing up for Grief Share.
Yeah.
And it may be the hardest step they've taken because sometimes we convince ourselves, well, I'm not that bad, but.
Yeah. And we've had people that have taken it and then come back and taken it again a couple of years later because, sometimes.
Grief is waves. It comes in waves.
Exactly. And, there's times when, somebody just recently lost, it may be a little too soon to be able to get in and process it. You need to kind of get, to a point where you're sort of ready to, to kind of explore and see what's going on. What's God doing in this?
Yeah.
So
that's good. What encouragement would you give to couples walking through the loss of a child or a loved one, especially when grief can pull people apart? You had mentioned in your story when your sister died. Tell us a little bit about what happened to your family and then why that wasn't going to happen to your family. Yeah. You and Marge, and then talk to somebody that may be experiencing that. What would you say to them if they've just recently lost a child or someone?
Yeah. My father was, he was from the Philadelphia area. My mother was here from Mobile. They had met when my father was in the Air Force station at Brooklyn Air Force Base.
Okay.
And so then he got orders to go overseas, and I'm trying to come back to make this a shorter story.
You're fine.
That's where I was born. And so then he being from that area, when he got out of the Air Force, we settled back near Philadelphia. So, but my mother had been raised by grand aunt and uncle who'd already had both passed away and left her a house that she still lives in now out in Silver Hill. And so they had talked like they wanted to move down here, but then going through everything with my sister and her dying and then the stress of going through that, and then moving down here. And then I just think that was the route to them, some years later getting a divorce.
Wow.
And so I remember going through that and how difficult that was. And so when it came to Margie and I said, that's not going to. I don't want that to happen. It's not an option. And I would say for a couple, even if it's not the loss of a child, if it's financial, if it's anything, I think you've got to come out and verbally say that, like, that's not going to be an option for us.
That's good.
We're going to pray. We're going to get through this. We're going to be intentional about this, because not just having good intentions about it, but I think you've got to make have the hard conversations that we're going to get through this. We're going to pray. We're going to pray together. Even couples that maybe have always prayed, but maybe the nice little prayers you pray with your kids or for dinner, but it's, praying real prayers. It's, finding different, podcasts to listen to like this one. It's, finding other ministers to listen to. It's
That's
finding
good.
devotionals, finding those kind of things. It's, it's doing things and then still doing things together. I mean, Marg and I have decided we wanted to travel. So, we still are doing those kind of things together. Yeah. We made a point that we're going to do those kind of things together. And no matter how hard this gets, a divorce is not going to be something we're going to see as an option. Yeah. Before we get things that bad, we're going to talk it out. So
that's really good. And that's so good that you guys recognized it. And I feel like the enemy tried to replay something that worked in your family before.
Yeah.
And he's really good at replaying because he doesn't have new tactics and tricks a lot of times. Yeah. It's like, well, it worked with his dad and mom. So I'm just going to replay this and see if it works again to destroy a family. And that you recognized it and stopped it is just, it's a testament to allowing the Holy Spirit to speak to you and doing and being obedient, even through the toughest seasons. How have you seen God, and we've talked about this a little bit, but greater purpose or redemption out of something so devastating?
Well, I mean, we've now seen, like I said, some of the healing that's gotten done through Grief Share. We've also seen...
Yeah, and before you answer that, let me just say, he doesn't have to take your daughter for these things to happen. Well, it's just... These things happened in spite of your daughter.
And it's funny that you say that, because I remember thinking that. It's like, God, you could have worked all these things out without having taken my daughter or anybody else's child.
Yep.
But that's what happened. And so, I guess seeing the redemption has just been, seeing the work, not only that, and did my other stuff, and something I didn't even mention, my oldest daughter, she lost a child last Christmas at 28 weeks. She was pregnant. The
umbilical cord.
No, it was the placenta ruptured.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so that was the day after Christmas, and so she's now pregnant again. So that's kind of been a miracle. But now that's but having gone through that, it's just I think she kind of had the faith that she knew she was going to get through this. I think she had the faith that she wasn't going to turn away from God.
Yes.
And so my son, who had been in the Navy, and, I think, he had his own struggles, but it's just, both of them have stayed very committed to the Lord.
That's great.
And then seeing, the impact it's had on other friends of ours who really weren't all that churched, but it's just seeing they had the same impact. And then what we've been able to share through Grief Share. Yeah. And seeing, those lives that have been touched has been, it's been amazing.
Yeah. You have a little book over there. Did you want to share that too?
Well, this was Lily was a selfie queen.
Okay,
major.
Love it.
Yeah. So, and what's funny, so I have it's not.
If you're watching this, go to YouTube and watch. If you're not watching.
Yeah. So it wasn't an iPad. It was some knockoff. And I mean, when I started going through it, because it got where it just wasn't really keeping a charge, and so I moved on. And so I've gone through, and there was hundreds
of selfies.
And I can remember at one point thinking, being a little irritated younger. Now I'm so glad I've got this and I've downloaded them. But this was just. This was just Lily.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I found these books and had them made on Shutterfly.
Yeah.
And I guess I could hold on.
Yeah, turn it to your camera right there so people can see her.
So this was Lily.
Oh, it's so great.
And all these were selfies. I mean, she was
That's a great way to keep those. And
what's funny about this is after.
Oh, yeah, you can see her personality
we were camping.
in that one.
Yeah, we had gone camping up around, I think, Cades Cove, somewhere up in Smoky Mountain Park. And so we were going hiking, and I was the worst dad ever because I didn't realize how close we were to Gatlinburg. And so then I'm like, oh, it's right there. So it's like, we got to ride through. And so that's all we did. We rode, because we were dirty. We'd been tent camping. We rode through, we turned around and came straight back. And the whole time they're like, well, stop there, because it's Ripley. No, we're going back to the campsite. Yeah. So this was after a hike. So you can just see she's literally, at the end of her rope. She's done. She's done. But, this is Biltmore. Awesome. These are pictures from Cafe Du Monde. Some of the funniest ones. And so this is another trip. We'd gone whitewater rafting. And so there was a part, and it was in Nantahala. It was a class 5 if you've ever been whitewater rafting. No. Oh, you should got to go. It's great. So,
I would love to go. Yeah. But I've never been.
And so we had a guide. And so there's a point where the guide is like, okay, right over there is a camera. There's a photographer that's going to take your pictures. And so I don't know if you could see, but you can see she got the fact of the pictures. You can see her expression.
She understood the assignment.
She did. Yeah. The rest of us are kind of half smiling, kind of half like, we don't want to go wiped out. Yeah. And so she got the assignment because both times she just
I love
glammed it up. So
I love it. Show that front picture. Show the cover picture of her, because I really just love that
and
one.
We have a larger version of this.
Okay.
That we have framed and have hanging up in the room, in the sunroom where we do our, where we do Grief Share. We have this picture, a larger version.
That's so great. That's
to
awesome.
Her first Alabama game.
Yeah, Roll Tide.
Yeah. Like I said, most of these were all selfish that she took.
Great.
And so I printed off several of these, and then, that's her and my son. And then one other, and this was a picture that was taken the day she died.
Oh, wow.
And then we have it framed. So her and Margie had gone walking. I don't know how well it'll come out because it's on a phone.
Yeah.
But that's McMillan Point down in Old Town Daphne. There's a point that looks out over the bay. So Margie loves to walk down there. And so she's like, here, take my picture. And so finally Margie's like, well, don't look at me, look away. And so she's got that and with the dog, and that's just kind of her looking out over the bay. And then that was when she said, I'm just sad. I don't know what's going on. So that's when Margie felt sorry for her and said, well, okay, you can go spend the night. So that was taken, a few hours before.
Wow.
And so we have this framed. It was given to us as
a gift.
Yeah. And so we have this framed up in our hallway. So, but yeah,
those are beautiful memorials to remember.
Yeah, and then and that's the other thing when people are going through, especially with the kids, try not to just remember the fun things.
Yeah,
we
remember the good times.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll still, we'll still talk about her sometimes. Some of the funny things. One time she even. And I don't know if I should share this because it's just funny, but one time she cussed in front of everybody that, it's like Margie had made some meatloaf, and I think I'd taken it for lunch, and she's like, oh, I was one of these restaurants. It's like, oh, what Dad ate on? She's like, oh, D word. And we're just like looking at her like, Lily. And, she was 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
And I'm sure she heard that word from her mother.
Yeah.
But, she just would come out, some of the funniest things like that. And
she seems just like a happy-go-lucky
she was,
kid.
very was, very. And like I said, we don't, the enemy was between that with their, like I said earlier, and Lily, we're telling having the 2 cops bring her to the house, like Lily, those were probably human traffickers.
Yeah.
And Margaret and I've said, it's like, what if that had been the way we'd lost our daughter, never knowing
where she was,
what had happened. There was a time when she was even younger, she almost got hit by somebody running around the school bus, driving around the school bus with the stop sign. And they'd gone across the street and with the kid next door, and were running back, and the car goes around the stopped school bus and comes within inches. So,
wow.
I don't want to say that it was all prophetic at some point, but it just, for whatever reason, I guess the enemy was out to affect her, affect our family.
Yeah.
And, she goes off and takes this juice, and it ends her life. So.
Well, I know that a lot of people listening today are going to be encouraged, even though that's a little bit different way to say that, because of the way that you have walked through this season and the way you have handled you and your wife so beautifully, trusting Jesus every step, not understanding, but being close to the who, staying close to Jesus, and allowing him to bring purpose out of pain, allowing him to walk through all of these, all of this tragedy with you, and not allowing the enemy to have the final say. Exactly. Again, he might have had the final say the first time he took your sister, but not this time. And you have brought out purpose in this and helped other people through Grief Share. And I thank you so much for sharing your story and letting us getting to know Lily today. Yeah. I never knew her, but I know that I would love her because she looks fun.
Yeah, she was. She was that. Yeah,
she looks fun. And I appreciate you sharing all of that, because that's an intimate part of your family. Yeah. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that today. I know it's going to help.
Giving me the opportunity.
Help a lot of people, and tell your wife we said thank you.
I will.
Thank you for tuning in today to Coastal Conversations. If you would like to be a part of Grief Share, if this is for you and you've listened today and you want to take a next step and really get involved in this group with the Bartles, they are open. And you can go on our website today, and underneath the groups tab, you will see the Grief Share group. All you have to do is sign up. They'll reach out to you and they'll let you know what days they meet and where they meet and all the things. And you just show up. And there's a family there that's going to love on you and help you walk through this season of grief with you. You are not alone, and you are not meant to live this life alone. And we are here for you. God is here for you. And he is going to get glory out of this, even when we don't understand. We love you, Coastal. Thanks for tuning in today. We are going to see you right back here next Wednesday on a brand new episode of Coastal Conversations. Thank you for listening to this week's Coastal Conversations podcast. All of today's references will be found in the show notes. Also, if you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you at Coastal this Sunday as we pick the conversation up from here.